Do you know what connects Lal Bahadur Shastri, T.T. Krishnamachari, Natwar Singh, A. Raja, Dayanidhi Maran, B.S. Yediyurappa, Ashok Chavan, and Nitish Kumar? They all belong to different political parties, but they all did one thing that has almost disappeared from Indian politics. They resigned. Some of these leaders were later acquitted. Some returned to public office. But they all resigned because allegations had become too serious, or because a major failure had happened under their watch. Today, that convention seems to have vanished. NEET paper leak, UGC NET paper leak, CBSE evaluation fiasco. The government has been hit by one controversy after the other. But you know who won't resign? This man, Dharmendra Pradhan. The Cockroach Janata Party has been protesting for days. Opposition has protested, student organizations have protested, parents have protested. Yet, Dharmendra Pradhan just won't resign. In fact, the BJP has openly articulated its position. In 2015, when opposition demanded Sushma Swaraj and Vasundhara Raje's resignation over the Lalit Modi controversy, Rajnath Singh had a simple response.
इसमें मंत्रियों के त्यागपत्र नहीं होते हैं भैया, वो यूपीए गवर्नमेंट नहीं है, एनडीए गवर्नमेंट है.
That wasn't just a defense. It became a government policy. It holds good even today. The BJP does not want to leave a trail of accountability. So why won't Dharmendra Pradhan resign? And is he really so important in the ecosystem? Let me explain. Ironically, no political party has demanded resignations more aggressively than the BJP when it sat in opposition. During the UPA years, it repeatedly demanded ministers resign over the 2G spectrum case, Commonwealth Games, coal allocations, and a host of other controversies. A resignation isn't proof of guilt. It's the minimum standard of political accountability while investigations continue. Today, that standard appears to have changed. So why doesn't Dharmendra Pradhan resign? Part of the answer may lie in his political importance. Pradhan has been associated with the RSS for years, and he's also served as a national convener of the Bajrang Dal. He has long been regarded as one of BJP's most trusted organizational leaders. A Caravan profile once described him as one of the party's principal fundraisers. You know, the money man. This week, the News Minute published an investigation into how ONGC donated over 650 crores in CSR funds to organizations linked to the RSS ecosystem. This included Seva Bharati, Ekal Vidyalaya, and Sangh-affiliated hospitals. And most happened when Pradhan was the petroleum minister. These donations would have probably happened under another minister as well. But investigation offers another glimpse into Pradhan's place within the wider Sangh ecosystem. You can read that investigation here on our website. And remember, we are an ad-free platform. When I ask you week after week to contribute, that's because your contributions allow us to do these investigations. So do take my request seriously and do contribute if you can to Let Me Explain. Scan the QR code on your screen and contribute any amount of your choice to keep the show going. Or you could become a subscriber of the News Minute and News Laundry. The link is in the description below. And as I keep reminding you, follow our WhatsApp channel and become part of the community. As far as exam leaks go, they aren't new in India. It has been happening forever now. An analysis by Sumedha Mittal for News Laundry in July 2024 showed that 89 separate cases of exam paper leaks were documented in media reports between 2014 and 2024. 21 of these were under the watch of central institutions with the BJP in power at the centre. 41 happened in states where NDA was in power. The rest of the leaks happened in Congress-ruled states or Telangana under TRS, Uttar Pradesh under Samajwadi Party, etc. So Dharmendra Pradhan can probably get away by saying leaks happen under everyone's watch. So the issue isn't whether leaks happen, because they do. The real question is what governments do after repeated failures. But the problem does not stop there. Let's look at what has happened recently. The NEET controversy. UGC NET being cancelled. The CBSE on-screen evaluation fiasco. Different exams, different agencies, but remarkably similar failures. Even more worrying is that some of the contractors involved had already been linked to earlier controversies. For example, in the CBSE case, the News Minute had reported that the board awarded its on-screen marking contract to a Hyderabad-based company called Coemt EduTech. This was done in December 2025, and it was rolled out within weeks. In the NEET case, Bihar police uncovered a cheating racket. This involved personnel linked to the biometric verification process. Reports suggested that the contractor had outsourced parts of the work to another company that had previously been blacklisted in states like Tamil Nadu. A single failure can happen, but repeated failures point to institutional failure. The problem with Pradhan does not stop with the fact that he runs an inefficient system. He seems to have done nothing to fix that system. And then there is the NTA itself. Now, NTA conducts some of India's most important entrance exams. Here's something many people don't know. The NTA isn't a statutory body created through an act of parliament. It's a registered society set up in 2017. That matters. Because as researcher Rahul Verma points out in this piece, there are no clear defined legal standards that hold NTA accountable when an examination collapses. When NEET UG 2026 was cancelled, the NTA's formal responsibility was limited to carrying forward registrations and funding the 1,700 rupees examination fee. That's it. Now think about that for a moment. Lakhs of students spend months, sometimes years preparing. Families spend money on coaching. Some students take even a drop year. The emotional and financial costs run into thousands of crores. But institutionally, none of that exists. The system recognizes only the examination fees. This brings us back to accountability. In 1956, Lal Bahadur Shastri resigned as a railway minister. This after a devastating train accident in Tamil Nadu that killed around 150 people. Look, he wasn't driving the train. He wasn't personally responsible for the accident. But he probably believed responsibility ultimately rested with the minister heading the department. The same principle has appeared again and again in Indian politics. Courts determine guilt, but ministers are expected to accept responsibility. This also raises a larger question. What message is Prime Minister Narendra Modi sending out? Now, has the BJP created a system where ministers are insulated from responsibility and accountability no matter how serious the failure? That's the big question.